Men today are struggling in silence, not just in their careers or in their purpose, but in love. You give everything, you try to fix, to protect, to provide, and still something feels unstable. She pulls away. The connection breaks down. The peace disappears, and you're left wondering what happened. The truth is, most of us were never taught how to love in a way that lasts. We were taught to chase, to sacrifice, to man up, but not how to lead with clarity, emotional strength, and consistency. And that's where ancient wisdom comes in. For over 2,000 years, Stoic philosophers have quietly carried the blueprint for inner peace, personal power, and emotional control, all of which happen to be the exact traits needed for strong, lasting relationships. What if Marcus Aurelius could guide you through a tough conversation with your partner? What if Epictetus could show you how to handle rejection, distance, or change without losing your center? This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming unshakable, calm in chaos, strong in silence, loving without losing yourself, because lasting love isn't about luck. It's about leadership, inner leadership. In this video, we're going to explore how the Stoics approached connection, trust, boundaries, and emotional stability, and how you can apply that timeless wisdom to modern love today. Let's begin. Before we go deeper, let's get one thing clear: Stoicism is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't care. It's not cold, it's not disconnected, and it's definitely not toxic masculinity dressed in ancient robes. Stoicism, at its core, is the discipline of mastering yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your ego, so that you can show up in the world with clarity and strength, no matter what comes your way. In relationships, that means this: you don't try to control your partner. You don't argue to win. You don't panic when things feel distant or difficult. Instead, you become steady, present, grounded. You focus on what you can control: your own actions, your values, your words, your boundaries, and you let go of what you can't: their mood, their past, their expectations, or their approval. Stoicism in love means you care deeply, but you're not attached to the outcome. You give freely, but not from neediness. You communicate truthfully, but without ego. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just good advice for battlefields or emperors. It's gold for anyone who wants a love that lasts. Because the truth is, when you're calm, clear, and in control of yourself, you become the safest place in the room. And nothing builds emotional connection faster than safety and trust. 3. The core problem: emotional reactivity. Let's talk about the real reason most relationships fall apart. And it's not cheating, or communication, or money. It's reactivity. It's when your emotions get hijacked. It's when something small triggers something old. It's when you stop responding and start reacting. Reactivity, the hidden saboteur of intimacy. She says something critical. You fire back, not because of what she said, but because it reminded you of every moment you've ever felt disrespected. She pulls away emotionally. You panic, not because she's distant, but because you've tied your sense of worth to her closeness. This is reactivity, emotional impulsiveness, and it's the silent killer of modern love. It's not the argument that breaks the relationship, it's how you handle it, the tone, the timing, the emotional charge. And most men were never taught how to handle that moment. We were taught to fight, or shut down, or run. but we were never taught to observe, pause, and choose a better response. What the Stoics taught us about reactivity. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." What he meant was, this your partner is not your enemy. Your ego is, your old stories are, your unhealed wounds are. So, if you want a relationship that lasts, you have to become the man who can stay calm when everything around you is not. You must become the eye of the storm, not the storm itself. How reactivity weakens masculine presence. Emotional reactivity doesn't just hurt your partner, erodes your own self-respect. Every time you lash out, shut down, or spiral into overthinking, you become less trustworthy. Not just to her, but to yourself. And women feel that. They feel when a man isn't centered, when he needs them to regulate him emotionally, when he makes them responsible for his peace. The result? She can't relax into your presence. She can't trust you with her vulnerability because she's too busy managing yours. The Stoic alternative: response over reaction. The Stoic doesn't deny emotion, he masters it. He doesn't numb himself, he notices what arises, but doesn't let it control him. He pauses before speaking. He breathes before judging. He holds space without collapsing. And in that space, something powerful happens. Instead of becoming unpredictable and defensive, he becomes dependable and safe. And in that safety, love grows, intimacy deepens, trust builds. Practical application for real men. So what does this look like in real life? She criticizes your effort. You don't snap. You ask, "What do you need right now?" She's cold and distant. You don't chase. You ground yourself and give her space. You feel anger rising. You don't explode. You step outside, take a breath, and return with clarity. You're misunderstood. You don't raise your voice. You slow it down and ask, "Can I try again with better words?" It's in these micro moments that love is either built or broken. Reactivity is about ego. Response is about leadership. And leadership is what she's actually craving. You become the anchor. So if you want a relationship that doesn't just survive, but strengthens over time, you must become the anchor, not the wave. You must respond, not react. You must lead, not control, but lead with emotional strength and inner discipline. Because in a world full of emotionally impulsive men, the man who can pause becomes rare. And rare men are remembered. 4. Control what you can. Let go of the rest. There's a Stoic principle that cuts through the noise of emotional chaos like a sword. It's simple, but not easy. It says this: control what you can, let go of what you can't. It sounds obvious until you apply it to love. Because in love, we try to control everything. Her mood, her reactions, her attention, her decisions, her healing, her loyalty. The illusion of control in relationships you call twice. She doesn't answer. Now you're anxious. She seems distant. You ask if she's okay, and she says she's fine, but something feels off. So you start overthinking. You get reactive. You try to pull her closer. You try to manage her emotions, instead of managing your own. This is where most men lose themselves in relationships. They trade their inner peace for the illusion of control. But here's the truth the Stoics knew. You don't control her. Ever. Not her thoughts, not her love, not her respect, not her decision to stay or go. You only control one thing: who you are in response to it all. Epictetus said it best, ... Some things are in our control and others not. The things in our control are our thoughts, emotions, choices, and actions. Everything else is not. You can't control whether she stays loyal, but you can control whether your standards allow disloyalty a second chance. You can't control whether she's in a bad mood, but you can control whether you become one just to match hers. You can't control her love, but you can control your self-respect if that love begins to fade. Where true strength lives, the strongest men in relationships are not the ones who force things to work. They're the ones who remain calm when it doesn't. They're not shaken when plans change. They're not crushed by distance. They don't chase validation. They live by principle, because when you stop trying to control what's outside of you, you start building real power inside you. Real life, Stoic responses in love cancels a plan last minute. You calmly say, "No problem. Just let me know next time." She withdraws emotionally. You give space instead of pressure and stay rooted. She criticizes you unfairly. You reflect, correct what's fair, and ignore the rest. She leaves. You grieve, but you don't beg. Why? Because you know you never controlled her to begin with. And love built on control is already lost. Stoicism is not apathy, it's awareness. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care with grace, not grasping. You love with strength, not dependence. You show up as a man who values peace, his own first, and the relationship second, because the relationship is only as healthy as the mind that leads it. So the next time something goes sideways in your relationship, pause. Ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is yes, act with clarity. If the answer is no, release it with calm. And when you do that consistently, you stop being the man who needs everything to be perfect, and you become the man who can handle anything with dignity, patience, and strength. 5. Practice presence, not possession. Here's one of the most misunderstood truths about love. You don't need to possess her to feel secure. You don't need to monitor, control, or constantly seek reassurance. What you need is presence. Strong, grounded, consistent presence. Possession is fear wearing a mask when a man becomes possessive. What he's really showing is fear. Fear of loss. Fear of being replaced. Fear of not being enough. So he starts checking her phone. He questions her every move. He demands constant updates. He makes love conditional. Show me I'm safe, or I pull away. This doesn't make her feel loved. It makes her feel suffocated. And worst of all, it makes you look like a man who doesn't trust his own value. What Stoic presence looks like in love now, let's flip it. Imagine you're with a woman who feels distant. A part of you wants to panic, to pressure, to pull her back in, but instead, you stay grounded. You don't beg, you don't cling, you don't explode. You remain calm, open, and connected to yourself. That's presence, not silence, not coldness, not withdrawal, but quiet strength. She can feel it when you're present, not in her space, but in your own. And that presence says everything you don't need to say out loud. I'm here, I'm steady. I'm not afraid to lose what I can never own. The Stoic distinction. Detachment versus disconnection. Let's make something clear, Stoic. Detachment doesn't mean emotional distance. It means emotional independence. You can be fully invested in someone and still not collapse when they need space. You can love deeply and still let go with grace if the season ends. That's the Stoic way. Love fully, possess nothing, and return to peace no matter what happens. How presence strengthens relationships. Most women don't want a man who owns them. They want a man they can feel anchored around. When she's overwhelmed, your calm helps her breathe. When she's chaotic, your clarity keeps her centered. When she doubts herself, your steady presence reminds her who she is. And none of that comes from control. It comes from presence. A presence that doesn't need to prove anything. A presence that doesn't beg to be chosen. A presence that is enough on its own. Close with a Stoic reflection, the Stoics knew that all things are temporary. Even love, even people, even moments. So don't grip what you love. Show up for it, protect it, appreciate it, but never confuse love with ownership. You don't own her. You don't need to, because when a man is truly present, he's not holding her captive. He's holding space for her freedom. And in that space, the right kind of love grows strong, not small. Would you like to move into section 6? Love through action, not expectation next. This one dives deep into Stoic virtue applied to love. How real connection is built, not through what we expect, but through what we consistently give. Let me know, and I'll craft it with full cinematic and emotional weight. 6. Love through action, not expectation. Most men love. With their expectations, they give love, hoping to be loved back. They show up, hoping someone notices. They try harder, expecting appreciation, validation, affection. And when it doesn't come, they start to withhold. They turn cold. They say, "Why should I give if she won't give back?" That's not love. That's a transaction. The heartbreak of conditional love. I've been there. You text her something kind. She doesn't respond. You plan something special. She barely reacts. You open up about your day. She seems distracted. And somewhere deep inside, it stings. You feel unseen, unheard, unloved. And the voice in your head says, "What's the point of trying?" So you pull back. Emotionally, mentally, physically, you stop giving. Not because you don't care, but because it hurts to feel like you're the only one who does. What the Stoics would say to you here: this is the crossroads where most men lose themselves. They let resentment replace love. They let scorekeeping replace presence. They wait for the other person to move first. And in that hesitation, the relationship starves. But here's what Marcus Aurelius would say: waste no more time arguing. What a good man should be one. That's the Stoic path in love. You don't act based on what you get. You act based on who you've decided to be. You lead. You give. You speak truthfully. You protect. You show up, not because she earns it every day, but because you chose to. You live your values, even when the world around you doesn't reflect them. Why? This is so hard for men. Because you were taught to measure your value by how you're received. If she smiles, you feel enough. If she's cold, you feel small. But here's the brutal truth. If your identity depends on her reaction, you were never in your power to begin with. A man must learn to love from the overflow, not from the need, to give without losing himself, to stay kind without becoming weak, to stay solid without becoming hard. Because when your love is rooted in action, not approval, it becomes unshakable. Love is built. Like discipline, a Stoic man loves the same way he trains, with consistency, with patience, without needing applause. You don't go to the gym once and expect a transformation. You don't eat one clean meal and expect lifelong health. So why do we show up once in love and expect it to last forever? You want a strong relationship? Show up even when it's inconvenient. Lead even when she's quiet. Give even when it's unnoticed. That's virtue. That's strength. That's love, the Stoic way. Your role is to water the roots, not demand the fruit. You may never get the thank you. You may never get the same energy back in the same moment. You may give more than you receive at times, and yet you stay grounded because you're not doing it for approval. You're doing it because that's who you are now. A calm man, a present man, a man of quiet strength, a man who lives by principle, not praise. So stop measuring love by what you get back. Start measuring it by who you become in the giving. And if she sees that, respects that, and returns it, you'll have something rare. But if she doesn't, you still walk away clean, because you didn't betray yourself in the process. In the end, the Stoic doesn't just love with his words, he loves with his actions, and that love stands even when everything else falls apart. 7. Embrace discomfort for deeper connection. Most men are taught to avoid discomfort, especially in relationships. We're told to keep the peace. Stay calm, don't rock the boat. So we swallow what bothers us. We avoid the hard talks. We pretend everything's fine, but deep down we know it's not. We know we're shrinking to avoid conflict. We know we're burying emotions that are quietly turning into resentment. And one day, the silence explodes. Not because she changed, not because the love disappeared, but because you never faced what needed to be faced. The relationship, death that happens in comfort. You think comfort means safety, but it doesn't. Comfort is often where relationships go to die. Why? Because love that avoids pain, avoids growth, and anything that stops growing starts dying. The Stoics knew this. They didn't run from hardship, they welcomed it. They saw adversity as training, as fire that reveals what's strong and burns away what's weak. And in love, that fire is called discomfort. The power of leaning into difficult conversations. You're afraid to tell her how you really feel. You're afraid to admit your needs, your doubts, your boundaries, so you avoid it, until resentment poisons the space between you. But when you avoid the truth to protect the peace, you destroy both. The Stoic man leans in. He says the hard thing. With calm, he brings the truth to the table. Without ego, he listens to her truth. Without defensiveness. Because connection isn't built through agreement. It's built through understanding. What discomfort teaches you about yourself? Every uncomfortable moment in your relationship is a mirror. It shows you where you're still reactive, where you lack clarity, where you haven't healed, where you're still carrying the boy inside the man. That's why the Stoic man doesn't avoid conflict. He studies it. He uses it to refine himself, to test his ability to stay calm, honest, and grounded when it matters most. Real, Stoic practices for handling discomfort. And speak when triggered. Speak when clear. Don't respond to win. Respond to connect. Don't shut down when things get hard. Lean in with courage. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay present when most men run, because the strength she's searching for isn't in your muscles. It's in your ability to remain open when it's easier to shut down. Discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the entry point. Discomfort doesn't mean something's wrong. It often means something real is trying to happen. A breakthrough, a new level of trust, a release of old pain, a deeper intimacy. But you only get there by stepping into the fire, not away from it. And when she sees you do that, calmly, bravely, she feels safer to do it too. So next time things get tense, don't run, don't explode. Don't ghost, don't numb. Stay, breathe. Speak with clarity. Listen with presence. Because the man who can lean into the fire often finds that love is waiting on the other side. That's the Stoic way, not to escape pain, but to walk through it and become stronger than anything it could destroy. 8. Reframe conflict as a test of character. Conflict doesn't ruin relationships. Immaturity does. Reactivity does. Ego does. Because conflict is inevitable to people. We'll always see, feel, and process the world differently. But what determines the future of that relationship is how you handle the storm. The Stoics understood this. They didn't fear tension, they welcomed it as a test of their self-control, a test of their clarity, a test of their character. When you argue, who do you become? Every argument is a mirror. It shows you what you're still a slave to. Your anger, your pride, your need to be right. You think you're fighting with her, but what you're really battling is yourself. Your need to dominate. Your refusal to be misunderstood. Your fear of appearing weak if you don't win. But a Stoic knows that strength isn't in the volume of your voice. It's in the control of your response. The temptation to win versus the opportunity to lead. Most men walk into conflict to win, but a Stoic walks into conflict to understand. He doesn't raise his voice. He raises his awareness. He doesn't cut with sarcasm. He speaks with clarity. He doesn't take everything personally. He listens for what's underneath. Because sometimes what sounds like criticism is just a cry for connection. What feels like disrespect is just unprocessed pain. And the man who sees beneath the surface becomes the safest place in the room. A Stoic's role in conflict isn't to win, it's to elevate. You want to be the man she trusts, then be the one who stays calm when she's not. You want her to open up, then stop turning every disagreement into a courtroom. You don't need to agree with everything. You just need to stay in control of yourself, while allowing space for her to express without fear, because true leadership in love is knowing when to stand firm and when to soften. How to lead through conflict like a Stoic. Step back before you speak. Breathe before you bite. Ask questions instead of making assumptions. Speak facts, not attacks. Own your part, even if it's only 10%. End with clarity, not chaos. Your tone matters more than your points. Your presence matters more than your defense. Your humility matters more than your argument. The real power is staying calm in the fire. Stoicism doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't let your feelings become weapons. And when you can be that calm in conflict, you earn trust. You deepen respect. You protect the connection. That's the man she won't forget. So the next time you're in conflict, pause and ask yourself, is this an argument I need to win, or an opportunity to show who I really am? Don't fight to be right, lead to be respected, and speak to be remembered. Not for your dominance, but for your discipline. That's the Stoic path. Less about being loud, more about being grounded. 9. Stoic relationship habits that build long-term love. A strong relationship isn't built in grand moments. It's built in the small, invisible things, done quietly, consistently, over time, not in candlelight dinners or dramatic apologies, but in tone, in patience, in self-control. And this is where most men fall short, not in love, but in discipline. What the Stoics knew about daily rituals, the Stoics weren't just philosophers, they were practitioners. They lived what they taught daily. Marcus Aurelius journaled every morning. Epictetus instructed his students to reflect before bed. Seneca wrote letters filled with principles he applied each day. They understood that wisdom means nothing if you can't live it quietly, when no one's watching. The habits that make or break a relationship. In love, you don't get the relationship you want. You get the one you show up for. Here are the habits that a Stoic man brings into his relationship every day. 1. Daily. Self-checks yourself each morning. Who do I want to be today, regardless of how I'm treated? This builds emotional leadership. You're not waiting to react. You're choosing your energy in advance. 2. Pause before reacting when triggered. You pause, breathe, step back, because one calm moment can protect a month of connection. Your restraint is more powerful than any insult. 3. Speak less, speak clearly, speak kindly. You choose words with precision. No sarcasm, no weaponized silence. No, you always, or you never. You talk like a man who respects himself and her. 4. Show love through action. Not performance. Do small things, consistently showing up on time, checking in with presence, protecting her peace. You love her in the language of consistency, not grand gestures. 5. Reflect every night. Ask yourself, was I the man I wanted to be today? Where did I lead well? Where did I lose my center? What can I do better tomorrow? This is how you grow silently every night. Why habits matter more than feelings. Your mood is temporary, but your habits become your character. And in relationships, character is what makes love feel safe. The reason many women can't relax around a man isn't because he's dangerous. It's because he's inconsistent, unpredictable tone, unreliable behavior, emotionally unstable. But when your presence becomes a pattern, she trusts, she softens, she respects. Small, Stoic habits that echo forever. You don't need to be flashy, you just need to be steady, clear, responsible for your energy, capable of staying grounded when love gets heavy. Because in a world full of inconsistency, a man of quiet rituals becomes rare, and rare men are remembered. So stop waiting for big moments to prove your love. Start with the small things done daily with calm and care. Your words, your tone, your patience, your pause, your presence, that's the Stoic way. And those quiet habits, they're what long-term love is made of. 10. Love as a practice of virtue. We've been taught to chase love like a prize, to win it, keep it, hold it tight. But Stoicism teaches us something radically different. Love isn't something you win, it's something you practice. Not just when things are easy. Not just when you're getting what you want, but especially when you're not. Virtue is the foundation of lasting love. The Stoics believed that the purpose of life was to live with virtue, courage, temperance, justice, wisdom, and love. Real love isn't about passion or possession. It's about showing up in your relationship with those 4 virtues, day after day. Courage to speak the truth when silence feels safer. Temperance to restrain the ego when emotions run high. Justice to treat her fairly even when you feel wronged. Wisdom to know what to say. And when to say nothing at all, you don't. Find a good relationship. You build it. A Stoic doesn't sit around hoping for the perfect partner. He becomes the kind of man who can build something lasting with whoever is ready to meet him there. He doesn't ask, will she stay? He asks, will I be proud of how I love her, even if she doesn't? Because virtue isn't about outcome. It's about integrity. It's about who you are, not what you get back. Your character is the relationship. If your relationship is only peaceful when things go your way, that's not love, that's ego management. But if you can stay steady when she's storming, if you can stay kind when she's overwhelmed, if you can stay honest when it would be easier to shut down, then you've become something rare. You've become a man who doesn't just love her. You've become a man who loves with virtue. What Stoic love feels like, it's not flashy. It's quiet, present, stable, grounded. She doesn't have to guess your mood. She doesn't have to question your tone. She doesn't have to worry about your reactions. She feels safe in your presence, because you are safe within yourself. Final words, you've come this far because something inside you wants to love better, deeper, stronger. And now you know the secret isn't in learning how to control her or fix her or change her. It's in mastering yourself, your mindset, your habits, your reactions, your silence, your strength. That's how love lasts. That's how trust is built. That's how respect grows. And that's how a Stoic loves.